Bring it on in. A Wednesday edition of the Daily Ticket coming to you right here. Sean Barnard, a great day to have Sean Barnard with us because we have now inducted a few new members into the Philadelphia 76ers Summer League Hall of Fame. We'll go into a couple of those players. I'm excited to talk a little bit about Ricky's fourth quarter from 2 nights ago. But of course, we start off with the red hot Fightins. What a game last night, Sean Barnard, and the expectations. I built them up a little bit for the series in general. I also told you that it was going to get ugly for LA, and I still believe it's going to be ugly tonight and tomorrow as well. I am not taking my foot off the gas pedal. To me, if you missed yesterday's show, pretty much spot on. The only thing I would say was just the over in general from the game, but I did say I would stay away from it and just fire on the Phillies team total over if I was feeling the need to wager on an over itself, or a total, excuse me. But it did creep over that 10.5 by 1 run. The only reason why I was worried that they wouldn't get there is because Wheeler was on the mound, but of course he got pulled. Looks like everything's calm and cool there, but man, just exciting to build something up, Sean Barnard. And regardless, like, the thing going into the game for me last night was, I understand it's July the 9th. I get it. But the players in that clubhouse, they were viewing that game and this series in a different light. And it showed with the fact that Harper was back in the lineup. I think Schwarber was going to get back in there no matter what. But you heard him. This clearly meant a little bit more to the players inside the locker room, and therefore it should mean a little bit more to the fans as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And very glad that Wheeler, it doesn't seem to be anything major, as that would have put a sour twist on what was an awesome night of baseball for that Phillies team. The Trey Turner Grand Slam was great. All the bats getting rolling was amazing. So definitely a message sent throughout the National League and through MLB as a whole. And it was nice to see the reinforcements back in action, seeing Bryce Harper and Kyle Schwarber, to see this team look like the Phillies that we know for most of the season and in this era. So it was nice for those guys to return to the field and look like themselves out there. And as you mentioned, still work to do in the series, but can't get a much better start than what went down last night.
No, it was great right from the jump. Ohtani gets struck out. I'll tell you what, man.
Some gas.
Yeah. Citizens Bank was rocking last night. Dude, it was packed to the gills. Again, as it should be. It's the LA Dodgers, two best teams in the National League. Understood, 13 all-star representatives for next week's game between the two teams. But maybe some folks didn't really think that Bryce Harper was coming back. Didn't matter. They were showing up. Maybe some people didn't know that Schwarber was destined to be in the lineup last night. Didn't matter. Folks were showing up, packed to the gills, and stayed throughout the course of the game. I'm sure it was a ton of fun to be down there. Once again, 10-1 final score. Real quick trip to the box score just to let you know. Before they added Harper and Schwarber to the lineup, it was minus 142. By first pitch, it was minus 172 for the Phillies. Ohtani went 1 of 2 last night. Did have a walk, did have a strikeout, excuse me. Schwarber 1 for 4. He had 2 RBI. Turner 3 for 4. Nobody hotter than him right now. Harper, I did say I would be cautious on anything with him returning to the lineup. 0 for 4. Bohm went 0 for 4. Stott had that jack 1 for 4. He went over his total bases with that. Castellanos 0 for 4. Marsh 2 for 3. Marchand 3 for 3. Watch out there. And Rojas took that shot off the forearm late in the game, but he was also 2 for 3 as well. A lot to like, man, just from the standpoint of getting everybody back. And again, it's just real difficult because we sit here and we don't want to get too crazy with the victory in the middle of the season, but the expectations were there, and I felt like the Dodgers weren't going to live up to the hype in their part in this series in general because of the pitching staff that they're rolling out there. They're throwing Gavin Stone tonight. They threw Miller last night, of course. I think it's going to be a bullpen by committee tomorrow. You had the news that Glasnow went to the IL yesterday. It did not feel like LA's day. So hopefully some folks fired on DraftKings Sportsbook and cashed in on a few of those plays.
Yeah, absolutely. And we talk about what a marathon that the baseball season is. We're at that stretch where there's not just the Phillies, not just the Dodgers, but a lot of teams right now holding on for that all-star break to hit that pause button, get the bodies back in order. And I think it's somehow the I guess it has shifted to where the Phillies are in the advantage position here, where the Dodgers are the team at a little bit more of a deficit with that. So nice to see them having that killer instinct and stepping on the throat. But it definitely feels like this portion of the MLB season in which everyone's ready for a little bit of an unplug here.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. We'll talk a little bit more about tonight's game. Once again, Gavin Stone getting the start here. He was the 2020 5th-round pick by the LA Dodgers. Just to go down a little bit of his history here, nothing too all that impressive, to be honest with you. Last time out, 3 innings, he got shelled. The Dodgers pitching staff is atrocious. They have to make moves coming up here on the July 30th deadline to go ahead and get some pitchers that they can bank on, because I still don't know if you could bank on Yamamoto. I still don't know if you could bank on Kershaw for this upcoming playoff run. They're in a world of hurt at the most important position when it comes to playoff baseball. Of course, starting pitching there. Now, Stone did have a good outing against the White Sox back on June the 26th. He went full 9 innings. Other than that, Rockies got beat up. KC made it 7 innings, decent outing there. Yankees got him pretty good, 5 1/3 there. Colorado got him on June the 2nd. This dude isn't all that good in the grand scheme of things. I know he's got a 9-2 record, decent ERA, but I think the Phillies can go ahead and light him up again tonight. And that's what my prediction was going into this series yesterday. I felt like break out the brooms. I'm going to hold steady on that. And just to get over to DraftKings Sportsbook, a little easier on the wallet here tonight, -142 for Christopher Sanchez. We know what he brings to the table, 9.5. Sean Barnard, you riding with me here on game 2 this evening?
Yeah, I am. I'm a Christopher Sanchez guy, and the bats are the bigger story to me. That I do truly feel like they are alive right now. And you see with this Phillies team that tends to be a connected thing. That sometimes they're all hitting, and sometimes none of them are hitting. And right now they're moving in the right direction there. I also am excited to see the response from Christopher Sanchez, who obviously has been unbelievable throughout the course of the season, but his past two starts shown a little bit of slippage, having to battle a little bit more, kind of the like letting things leak out in a way in innings that we have not seen for most of the year. So I would love to see him close the door on that, have a dominant performance, and show that he is this guy that he has looked like all year. I'm a believer in him as a talent, and I do believe he's taken these tangible steps forward with his control, with the increased velocity, and all these other factors that he's added to himself as a pitcher. So I would love for him to show it at the biggest stage, and I do think that's how things play out as the Phillies do produce another convincing win tonight.
All right. We will fire on some props before we get out of here. Great to see the boys back in the lineup again last night with Harper and Schwarber. I would definitely calm it down as far as expectations with Harper coming back off of that DL stint. So maybe this is a game that I would look at Schwarber. I did look at Schwarber last night a little bit more than Harper. But as I said, we'll come back and revisit that game, give you some plays on the way out. A lot to get to here. Sean Barnard joining me for the full hour, Daily Ticket. Staying with baseball, quick question for you. And I know that you got a million and one things going on. You're heading down to Vegas for the NBA Summer League to cover the 76ers over the weekend. Looking forward to all that coverage you and the great RB take. So fantastic stuff there. We'll talk some Summer League in just a second. But I got into a discussion this morning with our friends, via friends from Crossing Broad. They, long story short is we're on a little bit of a group chat, Slack chat. And it's a wide variety. Let's just put it that way. And there are some New York fans. And one of the things that we discussed this morning was the New York Yankees. Yankees have lost 17 out of their last 23 games. Think about that. 17 out of 23. Now, here's the crazy part. They're still 55-38. They're still in second place in the AL East, which is pretty damn eye-opening. Here's my question, though. Regardless of where they stand in the standings, we know if they continue to lose, that's only going to take a hit. Without being too much involved in knowing what's being said behind the scenes, and of course, I think we can all imagine what's being said on the airwaves and on the timeline, right? There's no way Aaron Boone's job is safe this year, correct? Do you agree with me, or do you think, he's going to get the full year? They're going to ride with him. There's no reason to fire him. How do you view that situation right now? Because it's a desperate spot right now for the Yankees. 17 out of their last 23.
Yeah, and I'll start by saying that I was surprised to see that level of statistic. That I knew the perception of the Yankees being pretty solid, them being well above 500 for on the season as a whole. I did not realize how much they had slipped in that direction. If that continues, you got to look one direction or another, and it does feel like Boone is a name that could pop on the chopping block. I think more likely than not, the Yankees find a way to solidify things a little and that they hang on and give him the course of the season. It's pretty rare, and the Phillies are obviously one of these exceptions that we remember in clear memory here. Where do you fire a manager mid-season and see this level of improvement? And shout out to Joe Girardi and Rob Thompson for showing the blueprint for how that does work. So I guess I do see a world where it could happen, but I do lean more towards it going the duration of the season and these playoffs being the true pressure cooker decision maker for Boone as manager of the Yankees. But we'll see how things play out. If it gets worse than it currently is, it's tough not for the blame to fall on someone there.
A whole lot of L's, man. A whole lot of L's and very few W's for the New York Yankees. The ESPN graphic this morning that I woke up to was the New York Stankies. I love it. All right. Again, baseball. We'll come back, give you some winning players on the way out as far as talking about the Phillies. We got a lot to talk about with the NBA. We got some Sixers discussion. I want to hit on Hard Knocks, though, real quick. And from the standpoint of what's taking place with the New York Giants, I want to give a little credit before I take a shot at the New York Giants. I think they deserve a lot of love, praise. There's a lot of freaks out there that enjoy. We have a lot of them on our airwaves that love drafts, combine, prospects, tape, all of that. The Giants have allowed the Hard Knocks gang, the crew, to join them in Indianapolis for the combine, film their conversations behind the scenes on the phone. I get it. You're signing off on this, but that's not how it works. You have essentially total control at the end of the day. You really do.
Veto power.
Correct. Veto power. Like, you know what? Let's not air that as an organization. I'm sure HBO producers don't want that, but I would imagine there's some fine print. And how do we know that? Because things changed over the years since it first showed. One of those big changes has been the fact that on Hard Knocks, they don't show cuts anymore. Teams didn't feel like that looked like kind of heartless at the same time, which it was, but great theater at the same time. I just have been blown away by being in the room at the combine, all the coaching staff, general managers, all the prospects, quarterbacks, running backs, wide receivers, the Q&As, how they're handling it, what they're doing. It's been great television. I think we're 2 episodes in. I watched both last night, believe it or not, because I didn't really get myself too involved in that first episode. But, man, so good. I don't know if you've been watching, but I'm sure you've seen some clips. Just your thoughts on the New York Giants opening the door for the Hard Knocks crew and really capturing whatever they wanted.
Yeah, it's very cool. And to me, that's like what interests me the most is seeing the behind the scenes of how those meetings go, what those discussions are, even stuff like the GM being prepped for a press conference and what his answers should indicate. Stuff like that is really cool, like a peek behind the curtain. So I think this Hard Knocks season might encapsulate what we're looking for in a way that I think has been lost in the program for certain seasons and episodes for sure. So the fact that it is like the inside the football operations, I think is very cool. I know the clip that's going super viral has been the phone call with Saquon Barkley. And I think watching that, I mean, pretty clear the writing was on the wall with that phone call there. And even with the hit us back, like, we'll see what we can do with the contract type of thing. It was pretty clear to me, like the door was closed on Saquon Barkley ever being a Giant again during that conversation there. And on both sides of things, I thought Saquon was fair to the Giants with his response. And I thought the Giants more or less indicated the same thing, that they don't see a deal coming to fruition there. So I think like after the talking points coming, how disrespectful Saquon was to the Giants or all these types of conversations, I think that aged pretty poorly, those takes by that conversation coming out. But I do love how we are getting this window behind the curtain, and there is a lot of really cool details and information coming out. So well done by Hard Knocks, and hopefully the rest of the season keeps it up.
Couldn't agree with you more. That was one of the things getting over to the Saquon conversation, and that was obviously something they threw into the trailer, which caught a lot of attention. But, Saquon, you're going to give us a shot, right? Like, yeah, cool. Like, okay, the GM did his job. We have to put ourselves, in that, like, we can't, but we have to believe, right, that those conversations have been taking place for the last 2 seasons.
Right.
And eventually you've heard what everybody has to say. Like, there's nothing more to add. Saquon wanted to test the market. He didn't feel like the number he was getting for the New York Giants was enough. Hey, GM of the Giants knew it. Saquon, you could tell by, hey, man, how you doing? Cool. Thank you very much. I'm going to go about my day. I know there's going to be a team out there that, that can use my services. I know it stings more for Giants brass, fans in general, that he ended up with the Eagles. No
Oh
ifs,
yeah.
ands about it. We know that. But at the end of the day, if you're fair about this whole conversation, about this whole deal, and you're a Giants fan, you have to say, dude, they made the decision. They wanted to move on from Saquon Barkley. You can blame Daniel Jones' contract for that. That's it. If they didn't have Daniel Jones, of course, there's going to be another quarterback in that conversation or in that spot. I think Saquon's back. Maybe Saquon is the guy that doesn't go anywhere. Maybe he's signed for another 5 years. I don't know. But Daniel Jones got that money, and it was in Hard Knocks already, where he said, we're paying our quarterback X amount of dollars. We're not going to pay him to hand it off to a $30 million running back, whatever it was. Well, thank you. We appreciate that.
For sure. And we also got to tie in the talking points and conversations about the valuation of running backs these days. That has been a larger talking point around the NFL, and seeing there's not that many guys that hold that type of value to teams in the eyes of franchises. Saquon Barkley is one of the minorities there, that he is a running back who commands that level of cap space, like that he is worth to a team. So the Giants ultimately landed on that decision that they can plug and play running backs more that Saquon is worth. And if we want to be completely honest right now, like, we don't necessarily even know that they're wrong in that decision making. Like, Saquon could come to the Eagles and not live up to the player that he once was, and all of a sudden this ages like the Giants are looking like geniuses for drawing the line in the sand. But for the time being, I think we all want to make like athletes the villains, and sometimes when they're making these decisions to change teams and leave, when in reality, like, the general manager is oftentimes, probably more often than not, more at fault for these type of talking points. And even like we see this in all sports. Paul George and the Clippers is another classic example that we're seeing kind of similar talking points and conversations. So I think the fact that this is coming to light and we're seeing, like, I don't think Saquon did anything wrong whatsoever. I think he handled it completely professional. And I think anyone with kind of a neutral brain or perception of this would portray it that way. So it does take a little bit of the sting away from Saquon and more on the Giants franchise in my mind.
I do know this much. I am ready for Saquon and the Philadelphia Eagles to take on those New York Giants, because DraftKings has some great specials already, baby. And I think Saquon is going to run all night long against those Giants. Let's see if they still have those up as far as some of the player props for Saquon. I know that they did player special. One of those, because I saw Victor had one. Essentially, they're saying 2+ touchdowns in a game, 4+ touchdowns and more in a game. Pretty good payout, decent payout. When we get into that world and we start talking about actual football play, there's nothing that makes me want to hit send on it just yet. But when we start talking about actual play and how the Eagles are scoring the football inside the red zone, I don't know. I wonder if the tush push will be such a thing inside the red zone from the 1 to 3, the 4-yard line, whatever it may be. I think it might be in the best interest for the Eagles to get Saquon going, to get him some of those scores. I get it. It doesn't matter. Just cross the goal line. But we'll find out. We're going to find out what type of loss Kelsey was in Sir Jurgens. Play calling. It's going to be different with Kellen Moore. How does he view the tush push? Are they still able to do it? Effective? Hey, man, these defense coordinators get paid too. Maybe somebody had figured out a way to slow it down. I don't know. So I think you're getting into that world of the unknown about who's scoring touchdowns right now. If I had to pin you down, do you still think that Jalen Hurts is scoring the majority of touchdowns next year?
Majority, I would still say yes, that I still think he is essentially the goal line back. And the fact that there is that type of dual threat is something that I think is unique to Jalen Hurts, and something that the Eagles would be wise to continue utilizing. I don't think it's going to be as heavy as was previously the case, that Saquon being a guy who is a true running back one in a way that the Eagles really haven't had in several years, even with the DeAndre Swifts and Miles Sanders. It wasn't this every down back in the way that Saquon is, that can be used as a pass catcher, can be used as a guy that you just give it to him and let him dance around and make things happen. So I think Saquon will certainly get his touches at the goal line and across the field in general. But I think at the end of the day, when push comes to shove, Jalen Hurts, part of what makes him special is he is essentially a goal line back to this team, that he will run through guys, he can power through guys, and he can throw right over them when push comes to shove. So I think Hurts is still probably going to be the leading rusher as far as touchdown goes, but Saquon will definitely get his hand in the cookie jar and have his action there as well.
Josh Jacobs or Saquon Barkley to score a touchdown. It's -265 in the first game against the Packers. Not really too many props up at this point in time. That's obvious. We understand. They got a bunch of team stuff up, of course, totals, all that. But as we get closer and closer to that first game of the season, baby, starts in 58 days, 5-8 away from that Friday night to open up the season. Looking forward to that. Of course, we'll have a lot to discuss on all things NFL very, very soon. Oh, by the way, coming up next, you're going to hear some college football conversation. Beef, Mark Henry Jr., myself, and Joe Tanzi sat down and covered all things Atlantic Coast Conference, ACC. So some college football conversation coming your way at 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock. X's and the U with the Philadelphia Union. We got Sebastian Latou, Matty G, and Adam Booth. Not everything going well for the Union this year, Sean Menard.
Yeah, not at all. It's been some tough times down there. So hopefully they can get it together. But this might be one of those seasons that it's going to be a wash the hands and forget about after the fact.
Have you been watching any of the Euros or Copa?
Little bit checked in here and there, but haven't caught a whole bunch of it.
Euros were awesome yesterday. Copa checked out because America checked out. Yeah. But Argentina played last night against Canada. Didn't really watch much of that, but the Euros have been awesome. And of course, today we got the Dutch versus England. That's starting at 3 o'clock. But yesterday, Spain I had, and they would go down 1-0, 8 minutes in to France, who was favored to win it all. So I'm just like, oh, what a bad play. Are you kidding me? And the next thing you know, 16 years old kid from about 40 yards out. How big's the box? Any idea? 30, 20 yards?
18,
get a guess?
18? Just the 18 yards. Yeah.
Wow. From outside the box, man. Left-footed, crafty, top corner, just out of the reach of the goalie. Fantastic stuff. Great theater, great television. And Spain ended up winning that game last night. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. I got an upset. I got the Dutch beating England this evening or this afternoon.
Wow.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun to watch the Euros, though. They did definitely been delivering in a big way. All right, let's keep it moving and let's get on over to your neck of the woods. Let's talk some ball. Let's talk some basketball. Big news today, Kawhi Leonard out, Team USA. Oh, by the way, they open up competition this evening, international friendly. And on DraftKings Sportsbook, something just happened on my computer. On DraftKings Sportsbook, the Team USA minus 12-point favorites. 12-point favorites. No Kawhi Leonard, though, leaving. Any idea why that was? He looked miserable in those pictures. It's Kawhi. I'm not going to try and get inside his head, but he leaves. Some people are speculating that he wasn't starting, so therefore he's out. It is a strange time that he's out. Do you think there's an injury? What is your thoughts on Kawhi Leonard leaving Team USA?
Yeah, from what I've read on it, and there's kind of conflicting information on whose decision this was, whether this was a Kawhi thing, a Clippers thing, a Team USA thing. But the ultimate reason for the decision seems to be that knee just straight up isn't right. And that is a huge concern for Kawhi Leonard. He obviously got shut down in the playoffs again this year. He has not been able to play a complete playoffs in a Clippers uniform in quite some time, or any uniform for that matter, even dating back to his time with the Spurs and and obviously he had his one run with the Raptors, which has kind of immortalized him as a basketball player. But like, I have some real concerns that this just isn't going to get better. These are real deal chronic knee issues, and we know kind of how that goes. So for Kawhi, I guess it's a good thing that he's prioritizing the health of it. He's trying to take care of it off the court, but it's really concerning that every time he seems to attempt to play high level basketball, that he can't stay healthy for more than a couple weeks at a time before this flares up right again. So I do think it is the knee injury. I don't know whose decision it officially was. It honestly wouldn't surprise me if Steve Ballmer and the Clippers kind of stepped in and said, like, he's not going to be risking himself for Team USA when we're going to have to deal with these same kind of hurdles throughout the season. But feel bad for Kawhi. He's a really talented and special basketball player, and I don't really have that much optimism for how much more time we're going to be able to watch him be playing the sport.
Me either, man. I really don't. And, you have to question again. It comes back to the LA Clippers. You had your choice and you decided to go with Kawhi over Paul George. I think there's positives on both players. Don't get me wrong, but man, that's got to be concerning from the standpoint of the future for that team. But we'll see how that one plays out. Team USA 12-point favorites tonight. Any shot that we're giving the 12 against Canada?
Yeah, I mean, Canada's good, so I probably would stay away from it because 12 is a lot there. And Canada has SGA, Jamal Murray. They're probably up there with the second most talented team, although there's a couple other good teams, Spain, Germany as well. So not just Canada, but I think this is a game that probably stays a little bit closer than people expect. This might be either a potential wake-up call for Team USA that they have to make sure they're locked in. we still don't really know what we're looking at as far as lineups, rotations, what kind of minutes each of these guys are getting. So personally, I'll be staying away from the betting side of things until I get a kind of feel for what things are going to look like. But Canada will be a tough opponent, so they're getting tested right out of the gates here.
Dylan Brooks is on Team Canada as well.
Yeah, and he's already using his Dylan Brooks skills of running the mouth, saying that, well, these guys all got to defend too. So we'll see if they can play both sides of the floor when talking about America.
Jeez, man. Am I actually going to watch this game tonight? I can't believe it. But actually, stop it. Yeah, it's Team USA. Because let me shut up. Let me take that back. I watched a 27-minute clip on my phone in my bed the other night. On the practice. Yeah, I was like this. I'm like, wow, this is awesome. Joel Embiid getting a dish from Tatum, throwing up a lob, smoking Podzinski in the head, knocking him out to the ground. That was pretty cool stuff. Look, you're looking at the best of the best out there. 12 players, and it doesn't get any better than that. So, of course, I'm intrigued, and tonight's going to be a fun matchup. Oh, by the way, starting at 10:30 p.m.
Oh, yeah. Get that coffee out. Late one.
Yeah, and I think it's going down in Vegas, I believe, as well, tonight's game.
Yeah, I believe so. I'm pretty sure on that. They're
heading to Abu Dhabi. Will they be in Vegas over the weekend when you're out there or no?
I don't 100% know. I know the training camp's taking place at UNLV. I'm going to have to double check that. Yeah, I don't have a full answer to that. I know Summer League's going to be primarily why I'm there, but if I can sneak in any access there, I would love to.
Damn right. All right, let's talk a little bit about the Summer League, and I'm curious to know your thoughts on the 70 and the first two games in action. And let's start with Ricky Council. I know he's not a rookie, but man, what a performance by the guy, and especially 19 in the fourth quarter 2 days ago. What was your takeaway from game one?
Yeah, game one was really impressive from Ricky Council IV. It was one of those performances of a guy who looked to be too good for Summer League, which is what you hope to see from these guys that are returning. And to be honest, Ricky Council is a guy who I didn't have those expectations for, that I think it wouldn't have concerned me if we get more performances like he looked in game two, which was just a little out of control, a little bit too much tunnel vision. It was also clear the scouting report took note of him pouring in as many points as he did in game one. But that fourth quarter was electric to watch. The jump shot does seem to be showing some progress there. He's creating his own shot in a way that we didn't see a ton from him. He still has some work to do as far as growing as a passer, a playmaker for others. I just still am not seeing a ton from him there. But he's a guy that is showing the signs of why he deserves to be at least in the ballpark of the Sixers' real deal rotation this year. I'm very curious what the role will be for him moving forward, but he especially shined in game one, and I'm excited to see how he responds in game three tonight, because it kind of was a tale of the highs, and I wouldn't say the lows of the lows in game two, but regress to a lot of bad habits there. So hoping for closer to a game one performance tonight.
Zach Edey. Come on, man. Let's get Edey in the lineup. What are these guys sitting in Summer League for? Come on. What else are we supposed to do? We got to have some reason to watch. Anything else from the Sixers perspective? Yeah, Jared McCain, your takeaway through two games for him.
I've been really impressed by Jared McCain, and he certainly has not played his best ball yet, but my overall optimism and biggest takeaway is I think this guy can be a true point guard, and that's one of the biggest things that I had my eyes on. He's really a polished player. He's got a real feel for his control of the game. He does some really advanced stuff as far as his speed manipulation, these choppy steps. He changes speeds, keeps defense on his hips a lot. He's also really good at drawing defenders and then creating for others. He had a couple really nice dimes, particularly in game two, I thought. So I'm impressed by that. He knocked down 2 3-pointers early on in game two, which was exciting to me after going 0 for 6 in game one. So still showing that confidence there. He's just a guy that knows how to play basketball. So there's still some things I need to see from him on the defensive side of the ball. But overall, I think it's been really impressive from Jared McCain. And I'm really intrigued by how he looks like in Vegas, as there won't be Jeff Doughton on the roster for that Vegas roster. So there should be more Jared McCain on the ball. I want to see if this dude can just straight up run an offense. Let him try and be a true point guard. He didn't really get that opportunity at Duke, and I feel from a skill set standpoint that he's capable. So I would love to see that.
Yeah, look, we're a ways away from this discussion, but I bring it up because of the award season and Rookie of the Year. And Jared McCain was 50-1, Sean Barnard, now down to 35-1. Should I fire? Should I have a ticket on Jared McCain?
It would be fun to hold on to a ticket. To be perfectly honest, I don't know if he's going to get enough opportunity to truly be in the running for Rookie of the Year.
Why not?
I mean, the Sixers are still a win now team, and I think when push comes to shove for this rotation, that there's going to be the Caleb Martins, the Eric Gordons, the guys like that will take some of these opportunities, even if there's like a Kyle Lowry return and stuff like that. So I think he'll play. He'll be in the mix for the Sixers team. But as far as rookie of the year, I don't think his numbers are going to quite hold up compared to some of these guys playing on teams without as high of goals as the Sixers have for this season.
Great take. Definitely agree with you there. We'll see how Nick Nurse handles that. Jared McCain, and again, he's a rookie, so let's give the kid a little bit of a breather here. How old is he? He's probably not even 21. What's he, 20?
Yeah, he's 20.
Yeah, I was gonna say he's young as can be. Staying with the rookie of the year, is there a player or two that you think, hey man, production, that's where it's going to be? Is Zach Edey that guy? Is he going to get production through the minutes? You know who I'm looking at? I'm looking at Dillingham, because I don't think he's going to start right now, but I do think he might end up working his way into that starting spot or getting a lot of minutes, because Minnesota lost a few key players, a few key pieces this offseason. So, of course, when you get into this conversation about award season, specifically rookies, you got to find those guys that are definitely able to play, getting the minutes, and, of course, production is there. Is there a rookie that you are sure right now that maybe might not be starting in week one, day one, but will be starting in December or playing a ton coming off the bench?
Yeah, the guy that I do expect this to be the case, and frankly has popped probably the most of any rookie in my eyes, has been Stephon Castle with the San Antonio Spurs so far. I had a lot of questions about him through the draft process, primarily because his season at UConn, to me, still left a lot of questions for what is his future positionally. He was a guy who made it very clear that he wants to be a point guard going into the like this season, was only taking interviews with team without a starting guard, a point guard. Obviously, they brought in Chris Paul in San Antonio, so this has not quite worked out. But I've been really impressed with, he is capable of being an on-ball guy. And he's also very effective in the off-ball setting. That's more of what we saw at UConn, his movement off ball, his creating. He can be a little bit of a dunker spot guy, making back cuts, that type of thing. I think he's going to be a key part of this future core for the Spurs. So Stephon Castle's probably been the number one guy that jumps out to me, and probably where I would put my ticket right now.
What about Donovan Clingan, as Mark Henry Jr. is checking in? And he says that's where he's leaning. As far as playing, as far as opportunity, what do you see for him this upcoming season?
Yeah, I don't hate it. I'm curious how Portland's vision is for. They have a ton of big men down there. They already, I know they have the DeAndre Ayton, who isn't a guy that they should be focused on building around. They've got Robert Williams on roster. Like, there's a lot of bodies there, so I'm curious how they separate the pack. But Clingan, and this has been one of the things me and Mark have talked about quite a bit, is he's the most concrete. You know exactly what he is for just about anybody in this draft class, that at the worst, he's going to be a very functional big man. And I think he's a guy that's showing a little bit more than that, a little intrigue on the jumper, a little more to his game than he fully stepped outside of the box at UConn. So if Clingan gets the opportunity, and if the Blazers are smart, they'll give it to him based on what the long term of that team is. He absolutely will be in the running. So I like that name as well.
It's 15-1 right now on DraftKings Sportsbook. Dillingham at 18-1, as I said. Jared McCain 35-1. Devin Carter 40-1. Where did he end up? Sacramento? No, where did he go?
Sacramento.
Okay.
He also just had to get shoulder surgery, so the start of his season is in doubt. So not great sign there. I would probably hold off on that based on we don't know exactly when he will be back on the floor, but it sounds like he won't miss too much time.
What about Zach Edey? Your take on him?
He looked good in game one. I did watch that overtime game. It's the highs and lows that it's pretty much as expected with Zach Edey, in the standpoint that when he's the screener offensively, creates a good look just about every single time. I do think it's going to be pretty dynamic seeing John Morant play off Zach Edey screens there, but there's still the defensive issues that, like, he got punished pretty badly in the pick and roll coverage, and that's as expected. That's been like the biggest concern for him, and it's only going to get worse when there's guys that are truly like elite NBA players singling him out and attacking him there. I think he's probably a little bit capped in what his minutes will look like. I don't see him playing over 20 minutes per game in very many games this year. I think he'll be like a specialist, a rotation guy. So I probably would hold off on Zach Edey, but I do think he's going to be more impactful than a lot of people have given him credit, and I've been impressed by him so far.
All right. It's a fun market. Rookie of the year for the NBA DraftKings Sportsbook. Again, Edey, I think, was 15-1 on draft night. Now down to 6-1, leading the charge. Sar back behind him, plus 650. Yeah, help me out. I promise you I'm going to remember. How do you pronounce the dude's name?
Zachary Risachet.
Risachet. Thank you.
Yeah.
He's in there. It's terrible. 7-1, Castle 9-1, Reed Shepherd 10-1. Did I tell you what Tim Doyle from CBS Sports said? He said Reed Shepherd's gonna be a Hall of Fame player.
Wow. Wow. No, I did not hear that one.
True
Wow.
story. He's a big, big fan. He thinks he's just gonna fill it up. Any thoughts on that? Like for rookie of the year?
Yeah, you can talk me into rookie of the year way more than Hall of Fame at this point in the game for sure about that one. I like Reed Shepherd. There's some really
Yeah.
good indicators there. The shooting's absurd, like 52% from three, regardless if it's the college line. It's just a ridiculously efficient split there. He's also like a guy that like when you dig into the advanced indicators, he jumps out in just about all of them. I take those with a grain of salt. I think a little bit more than most. That I think like particularly on the defensive side of the ball, the steals and blocks that he generated are a little bit one of the cheap ones to me. That he's jumping past lanes, poking out from behind. I personally prefer a guy that wants to get in the nitty gritty and just defend a guy rather than take the high risk, high reward of going for the steals and blocks there. But at the same time, he was productive in it, so you can't hate on it. And I do think the Rockets should give him the room to grow. And Fred VanVleet's like an excellent player for him to learn from a day one standpoint. So I think he's in a pretty good spot. Houston, there's going to be a pretty significant talent crunch as far as Jabari Smith, Alperen Şengün, all these other guys, Jalen Green, of course. They have got a lot there. So might be a little too many cooks in the kitchen for my liking for the actual rookie of the year odds. But I do think like he is a guy who has a chance to carve out a real nice role with that team. And I think it's a good spot for him.
Mark Henry Jr. also checking in, and you know I love him. I actually looked at the LA Lakers. I would never buy it, but I almost bought a Dalton Connect jersey from Tennessee. And that Lakers jersey looks sharp, man. I'm pulling for the kid. I don't care if he reps the Lakers or not. I like Dalton Connect. He's probably not even a kid. He's probably my age by now. He played college for like 11 years. Anyways, he's 10-1, and as Mark said, definitely be in the rotation, fourth best player, halfway decent. I could see Dalton Connect getting buzz and cutting those odds immediately in half a month into the season.
Yeah, and we always got to factor in a little bit of these storylines or how things are going to be perceived or pushed here. And the Los Angeles Lakers certainly help that with Dalton Connect. And if we're being honest here, like if there's any coach that would be prepared to draw up some plays right away for a guy like Dalton Connect, it's JJ Redick. That I think that he is going to be used in some very similar ways to what we saw from JJ. Connect a little bigger than JJ, a better athlete than JJ. So there's a lot to like about him. And I do think he will be useful. They need shooting pretty desperately on that Lakers team. So there's a need for his skill set, and he's there to provide it. So we'll see how things shake out. The Lakers, I have a hard time having any sort of expectation for this year, but Connect is a guy that they're going to be counting on. So I could see a world where that plays out.
All right, final thought here. Just looking at the MVP while we're at the awards. Joker plus 350, Luka plus 370, SGA 6-1, Joel 6-1, Giannis plus 650, Anthony Edwards 12-1, Tatum 18-1, Brunson 18-1, Wemby 28-1. Do you see what his odds were for defensive rookie or defense player of the year? He's like minus 250. It's ridiculous. You should have been defensive player of the year last year, but whatever. I'm not salty. Ja Morant 30-1. I bring that up. What do you think about Memphis this upcoming year? Because I am excited about Ja Morant. I have always been a Ja Morant guy. Will the team's success be there? I think he's going to be a high flyer. I think he's going to be Ja Morant times 10 this year because of everything that's taken place. People have forgotten about him. I just watched. Did you see that video? I know people were sending it to me. I'm sure they were sending it to you. The greatest shots in NBA history, and the final one was Simmons.
I did see that.
But that shot made me think about Ja Morant, and he hit it from the side and how special he was. And there was 5 or 6 times in a year where I'm like, oh my God, because of Ja Morant tweeting that out. Anything there for Ja Morant? And what are your thoughts on the Memphis Grizzlies turning it around this year and being competitive?
Yeah, I do think they'll be competitive in the West. The West is going to be a bloodbath this year, as was the case last year, and not a lot of these teams have fallen off. But I do think Memphis is going to be one of the more rapid risers. We forgot how good this team was, and they did some things that I'm really intrigued by with this Memphis Grizzlies team. That Jaren Jackson is a guy that I think was forced to play way more true center than should be the case last year. He's at his best as a 4. He's a guy that's not as good of a rebounder as he should be. Ja Morant, we forget how good this guy was when he's on the court, and assuming there's no injury or suspension issues this year, we should get a full season of that. I think they probably end up in that like 5 to 6 seed range in the Western Conference would be my prediction there. I think that's a more optimistic lens than a lot of people would cast on them. But I do think that the talent is there. I like the pieces that they have in place, and everything is all built around John Morant, which should be the case when that is your superstar. A guy like Marcus Smart, I could see having like a redemption arc this year, playing next to Morant, who I think is an excellent compliment to him. We kind of forgot about him in all the crossfires and injuries last year. So that's an intriguing piece. And there's a lot of guys that I like on this Grizzlies team. So you can get me buying some Grizzlies stock for sure.
All right. One more as far as the Sixers are concerned, back over to them from the summer league. The other rookie that they took at the 41st pick. Help me out there. Your thoughts. And I saw you ranting and raving about it on socials, how he's got a big frame.
Yeah.
Mistake to allow him to drop that far as other GMs are concerned?
Yeah, so Adem Bona is his name, kid from UCLA, former Pac-12 Defensive Player of the Year, a guy who from Nigeria originally, got a really good head on his shoulders, and a guy who very much looks up to Joel Embiid, which I think is really cool for him to come in the league and get capable of playing right next to him and learn from him right away. He's very cut from like the Clint Capella type mold of player that he's going to keep the game simple. He's an excellent, super high level shot blocker, and that's the number one defining skill I'll point right now. He had 5 blocks last night in game 2 of Summer League, and like, he goes up for every single one. He's a guy that's going to contest sometimes ones that like he probably shouldn't. We're probably going to have to reel in the foul issues a little bit, but he plays a little bit more composed than a guy like Paul Reed, who we saw last year, like keeps the game simple in a way that Paul didn't. And obviously when you bring in the finances of a 2nd round pick versus Paul, who was a guy who was set to make $7.7 million this year, it makes sense to have that kind of switch up there. I wish he defended on the perimeter a little better. My optimism for can this guy play next to Joel has probably decreased a little bit through 2 games. But then again, they've played pure zone defense these first 2 games, which has been a strange decision to me. And I think Bona has struggled in that. So there's he also has not missed a free throw yet, shot 6 of 6 yesterday. So that's really intriguing to me as well for a guy who there weren't really any signs of him being a capable shooter. I'm a little bit intrigued that the shooting stroke looks like legit, and that could be something that he could add. There does feel to be a little bit of touch there. So I think it's going to end up being a really good 2nd round pick. They already gave him a standard NBA deal, which is not the norm for a 2nd round pick. So that shows the belief from the Sixers organization there. So he's a guy that I do expect to be in the mix, and he will have he's a guy that I think will have growing fans right away in a similar way to how Paul Reed did.
Very cool. 2nd round picks don't get guaranteed contracts. I saw a guy, what's his name? Bronny James. He got a 9-year guaranteed deal.
Yeah. You can. The first round's the cutoff, which is why that's always so important for guys. Second is you kind of got to play yourself into it. Now, Bona is a guy that they did believe in and already handed the deal. So clearly that is the case. More 2nd round picks get the opportunity. It's been called the Hinkie special, how you can kind of lock guys up on a more controlled contract, give him that multi-year deal, such as what the Sixers did with Ricky Council, who was undrafted overall. But yeah, for Bona, he does have that standard contract, and a couple others have gotten handed deals as well.
Mark checking back in. He says he likes Wemby 28-1 MVP. I don't hate that, Mark. I don't hate that at all because he's on everybody's radar. I'm sure he was to a point, but man, what he did last year, and I think the Spurs will be a little bit better this year.
Yeah.
I just don't know the success that's going to come into play here when we're talking about an MVP. Because you gotta be realistic. Think about all the conversations we've been involved with over the last 4 seasons with the players at the top, and how great you would have to be to take one of those guys out playing at a 500 ball club.
Yeah. Yeah, and my take for MVP, it's kind of a chalk pick here, but it does feel like it's going to be the year of Luka Doncic to me. That they've been trying to put Luka in that conversation, and deservingly so, for several years now. It feels like it might be the time where he finally gets one, and I do expect this Mavericks team to have even more regular season success than has been the case through the Kyrie and Luka era. It feels like they're a little bit more settled and found their identity in a way that they've been searching for a couple years now. So I think it might end up being the year of Luka.
Excuse me. All right, final one, Sean Barnard. The Detroit Pistons, they've been busy. They got Paul Reed. They got Cade Cunningham, 5-year, $224 rookie max extension. Nice work there. They also got a guy by the name of Tobias Harris. Tobias Harris played for Philadelphia. Tobias is excited on Instagram to go to Detroit, turn the page, return home, whatever you want to say. But didn't mention the 76ers, who he's been repping for quite some time. What was your takeaway on that? Anything? Just like whatever. I saw somebody say that they finally had respect for him as a basketball football player, which is great. I will go first. I just want to say this. Of course, and right from the jump, I'm like, you weasel, you rat. But then I thought to myself, like, dude, people were vile towards
Yeah.
him. But I then I came back, and I'm gonna stand strong on this. Not everybody hated him. There were plenty of Tobias Harris fans, young and old, people that have been supporting him no matter how bad he played, no matter how many shots he missed. There were people, and there will still be people that don't speak a negative word about him. So shame on Tobias if he's not going to just suck it up and hey, thanks for the people that supported me in Philadelphia. I can't thank you enough. Something along those lines. I'm going to stand on that. I thought it was very, very weak of Tobias Harris, who's made $302 million playing the game of basketball. Suck it up. Thank the fans that did support you.
Yeah, I mean, he's absolutely taken his lumps from this Philadelphia fan base, so I do understand it from his perception. I think ultimately it would have aged the best if he had handled it a little bit like that, just a line for thank you for all that have appreciated me or for Philadelphia for the time, whatever. But I understand if he does feel some type of way, and I think that's completely fair on his part if that is the case. For what it's worth, like Tobias, who we've all been critical of, myself included, it's never really been a Tobias thing. This was a Sixers organization thing, that it was a poor decision to hand him the money they did. They wrote out a check that his talent was never able to fully cash on. So that can be held against Tobias, and it's fair to do so. I kind of view that more through the lens that this was a mistake on the Sixers' part for believing he could be something that he's just not. And that's kind of where the situation is, who it is. It's still a miracle to me that he did play out the entirety of that contract here in Philadelphia. He is a guy that is an all-time bag hustler and will be collecting more money. He's the highest paid player in NBA history to never make an all-star game. So can hang that on the legacy or put that on the resume, whatever you want to phrase it there. But I do think Detroit's a good spot for him. It'll be low pressure basketball. He was made to take teams from 28 wins to 31 wins. That might be exactly what he ends up doing in Detroit.
We shall see. All right, Barnard, great stuff across the board, folks. Don't go anywhere. Coming up next, summer ball, all things college football, ACC edition. We got the band back together, Mark Henry Jr., Brian Beef Coyle, Joe Tanzi, and myself. We weave you in and out of the ACC, plus a little sprinkle on some other things happening in the college football world as we are inching closer to that opening game between Georgia Tech and Florida State in Ireland. Oh, by the way, ACC there for you. And then at 5 o'clock, X's and the U, Big Trouble in Chester in the stands, all that and more. But a great conversation, great list. And trust me when I tell you, you don't want to go anywhere. Hey, just to let you know, I'm out. I'm heading to Baltimore. I am I won't be live for the next 2 days. So you will hear all things college football. I'll be running that on Friday. Tomorrow will be a mishmash. You'll hear swinging and ding it, all that and more. And then Sean Barnard will be in Vegas. So hopefully we'll be getting some content from him and RB next week, live from Summer League. I know that you'll be on the Daily Ticket. I'll be back on Monday. And Monday, oh, by the way, is our golf outing. Swing It and Ding It Open taking place over there at the Legacy Club in Jersey. Really looking forward to raising more money for the Magical Mila Foundation. Moose does an unbelievable job putting this together, representing Swinging and Ding It. It's going to be great to play golf with Harry Mays. Danielle, I know she just had a baby, her and Brandon Matthews, so I don't know if they'll make the trip up this year, but man, great stuff from the crew over at Swinging and Ding It. Great gear, and we're going to have a blast on Monday. So a jam-packed couple of days. I am heading to Baltimore for a bachelor party. I hope, Sean, if you eventually tie the knot, man, just skip me on the bachelor party. I'm too old. I kid. I want to go. All right, invite me. No, we're going to Baltimore. We're going to see Yankees and Orioles on Friday night. That's going to be cool. Garrett Cole on the mound for the Yankees, and I'll be pulling for Baltimore. So if you have a winning play from the Orioles perspective, shoot that to me on Friday. Everybody, enjoy the rest of your day. And don't go anywhere because Summer Ball ACC edition is next.